Ladies and gentlemen, Hex community of all ages, hey, Jake Freedom here, coming to you live from YouTube for this week's Hex Update Saturday for August 16th, 2014, and boy, let me tell you, we have quite a bit to go over today. Well, not a lot, but there's a lot that has happened in the past couple of weeks. As you probably know, we didn't have an update last week. In trying to prepare for the Shattered Destiny set, I thought maybe it'd come out this week. We have a lot to talk about in this update, but it didn't, so we can't go 2 weeks without having an update, and this week is actually, we have a lot of information to go over. Other than last week, there was just kind of a GenCon update. So first of all, we have a post on the forums here about Shattered Destiny new mechanic. And if you, some of you may be familiar with this because there's been some spoilers out that talked about tunneling. I think Corey blogged about this particular mechanic. Anyway, the mechanic's called tunneling. And let's just read this here. He says, "Greetings Hexers and welcome to GenCon preview of our brand new mechanic in set 2, Shattered Destiny, called tunneling. Tunneling allows you to build up a hidden force that then surfaces onto the board to surprise your opponent in various ways. This ability will be appearing exclusively on the underworld races of dwarves and Shinhair. Both of these races spend most of their lives beneath the surface. The dwarves in mines and caverns in pursuit of the perfect tools of destruction. The Shinhair dwelling underground after being banished from the surface for their overly aggressive nature." So tunneling sounds like a really neat mechanic, and I don't know what exactly we're looking at here. This maybe is in an upcoming patch. This board layout looks pretty cool. I like the art style here. I don't know if this has to be fairly new, so hopefully we'll get that sometime. We'll see here. But it looks like a card they're showcasing here is the Scrap Tech Brawler, and he is a 3-cost, 1 threshold Ruby Troop 2/2. He has tunneling, and it says 3. I'm not sure what tunneling 3 means yet. When this enters play, gain 3 temporary resources. I think that's what that says there. It's hard to read. That doesn't really make it any better. Something like that. Anyway, let's go ahead and close out of that. Let's see here. So yeah, you gain 3 temporary resources. It's a basic action. It requires 1 ruby threshold and 2 resources, I believe, and then you can tunnel this troop. And tunneling him will obviously send him below the board, so he can't be touched or anything like that. So this is what you'll see, and this is what your opponent will see on the board. So you won't be able to see the card. So you can have a lot of these cards that are flipped over, and your opponent has no idea what's going on. So you'll have this. Your opponent will see this, which is actually kind of cool. So you're playing a hidden hand. A lot of cool things I can see you doing with this here. You know, just to come up as like a surprise attack or something along those lines. Get a lot of troops out. I don't know. We'll see how that mechanic works. Maybe the mechanic won't be that cool, but I think it's going to be a pretty neat mechanic myself. Let's see, another screenshot here is your opponent can see your counters. Okay, that's fine. Looks like they've moved where the resources sit. Looks like they're sitting over here now instead of over here for the indications. These would be your resources. This would be, is that your charge power, or that's how many? Wow, they move stuff around here. Interesting. Okay. All right. So this would be like your resources here. What's the 18 is your life. The 4 would be what? What is that again? Son of a gun. That's got to be the charge power for your champion, I would believe, because this would obviously be your life, so this has to be your charge power. It just indicates how many cards you have in your hand. So yeah, I'm kind of digging the new board layout. I really like these graphics here. So another thing here about tunneling. Tunneling works as an alternate cost to play a card. For any troop with tunneling, you may pay the tunneling cost of 2 resources to put them underground. So as long as you meet any other threshold requirements on the ability, your opponent can see that cards are underground but cannot see what those cards are. At the start of each turn, these cards will receive a tunneling counter. Once they have gained the counter equal to the tunneling number, They will enter play for free. Troops that enter play this way will be able to attack the turn they surface as though they have been in play all along. Tunneling is a great way to invest a few resources early for a bigger return for bigger turns later. So that's what that number is right there. He has a three next to tunneling there, so once he gets 3 counters for his tunneling, he will come into play. So that's kind of neat how that works. Next one card here we got is Excavation Hulk. He's a troop artifact robot. He has a tunneling for 4, so you basically for 2 resources you can tunnel him. And then once he has 4 counters at the start of each turn, he'll obviously add a counter. Once he has 4, he'll come into play. So does that mean do you still need to pay 6 to even play him, and then 2 to tunnel him, or do you keep him? You keep him in your hand, then you tunnel him for 2. I think that would make sense, because if you tunnel him for 2, you still got to wait 4 turns, which could essentially be 6 resources. Let's look at this guy here. See, that one's a little bit different, so not sure on that there. Excavation Hulk is quite simple, but plays an important role of the tunneling mechanic. When we conceived tunneling, we knew that the best part of the mechanic was its secrecy, so we made sure to provide plenty of troops with the ability. That way, it isn't easy to decipher who exactly might be lurking below the surface. Let's take a look at what will be popping up on your opponent here. So this one here is Fissure Smith. 2 cost, 1 threshold troop dwarf. He has tunneling. He has a counter for 1 tunneling. When one or more opposing troops without flight attack, if this is underground, destroy one of those troops at random, and this surfaces. Okay, that's kind of neat there. As long as you're playing against a flight deck, that would, just destroy one at random. Be kind of nice if you could choose, but that would probably be really powerful for a 2-cost card. So random's not bad. Tunneling is born from our ability to expand the digital aspects of the game and what TCGs can do. Fissure Smith demonstrates that there's more to just tunneling than playing troops for lower cost. This card lays a trap for your opponent that they must always be wary of, or else lose their best troop for a small price of 2 resources. Not necessarily going to lose their best troop all the time, since it is, you destroy 1 troop at random, but yes, we get the idea of what they're talking about tunneling here. Then you get a troop of your own to boot. So this minion of Yazukan, he's a blood troop, 1 cost, 1 threshold, Shinhir zombie. And he's also a tunneling for 2 resources and 1 threshold. You can tunnel him. He has 2 tunneling counters. This troop can't block. When this troop dies, it goes underground. When this troop goes underground, it gets permanent +1/+0. So that goes along the lines of the whole effect of using this Shinhir as a sacrificing race to build up other troops, and this card definitely plays well into that realm there. Shinhir have also lived a life filled of death and sacrifice. Some have found ways to elude the former and prosper in the latter. Minion of Yazukan is another way we get to take advantage of the digital environment. When your opponent destroys him, he comes back 2 turns later even stronger. Next guy here is this is the Scrap Tech Brawler again, and they say here just because a troop has tunneling doesn't mean you have to tunnel it. You can tunnel Scrap Tech Brawler, and when he surfaces, you will have 3 extra resources to spend, or you can just play him and he ends up being free, so you can continue playing other cards during your turn. For example, if you were to tunnel this on turn 2, once he surfaces, you could have up to 8 resources to fill the board with a robot army, or perhaps that Eternal Guardian to protect the rest of your troops. Another card here is Tectonic Mega Hulk. 10 cost, artifact, 10/10 with Crush. He is a legendary. That's good. For 2 resources, you can tunnel him. He will surface after 15 counters. As your turn starts, reduce this troop's tunneling time by 1 for each dwarf and robot you control. Now that plays directly into the dwarf artifact robot decks there. So the more you have out there, the quicker you can get this guy out. with being a 10-10 with Crush, buff him up any bit. This could be definitely an end game card. Once he services, boom, strike, game over. I can see that go. What's the word I'm looking for? Synergizing well with the dwarves, artifacts, and robots. So to say here, I present to you the Tectonic Mega Hulk. He is quite the powerhouse, coming in at a cool 10-10 with Crush, but his resource cost is very restrictive. Thankfully, this tunneling ability allows you to cheat him into play much more quickly. With each dwarf or robot speeding up his servicing by a turn, once this troop hits the board, it is difficult to answer and can seal the fate of many opponents. Just imagine the look on your opponent's face as this begins unearthing below their feet to destroy his hopes of victory. Well, that's it for a preview of Set 2 Tunneling Mechanic. CZE is super happy with the set and hope you will find that it is enjoyable to play as it was to design. One of my favorite ways to use tunneling is to try to tunnel multiple troops so that they all come up at once for a huge swing. Players will have their first chance to experience Set 2's Shattering Destiny and tunneling this weekend at our GenCon League area and demo booth number 601. Come say hi and check it out. If you are in attendance, we always love to mingle with the fans and talk about HEX, our passion we hope to share. That was all from Dan Clark. So very cool mechanic. I'm kind of digging it. It's going to be really interesting to see all the cards that you can interact with tunneling. Tunneling seems like a really good mechanic, and especially that Tectonic Mega Hulk. He's gonna be tough. I bet. People are going to probably play a lot more. Maybe dwarf artifact decks just to see how quickly they can get him out and if he can be buffed in the meantime while he's sitting there tunneled. So if he can, maybe you can get him out on turn 6, turn 5. Who knows? Just come up as a big powerhouse, swing once, and boom, done. Alright, next update we have here is Shattering Destiny Shards and Sockets. Many of us probably already know, maybe you don't know, that the Set 2 cards can have multiple sockets. They can have multiple gems. So, this one here says, "Hey there, my little hexy wexies." Ben Stoll, head TCG designer and Hex PvP and lead designer of Set 2. And I want to give you a little taste of what we have in store for you with Hex's second full set of cards, Shattering Destiny. Shattering Destiny picks up where Shards of Fate left off. You'll see the races of Entrath exploring cool new design space, some new keywords, and of course a second set layered in with the first to deepen your booster draft experience. In Shattering Destiny, the Underworld revealed a brand new sneaky tactic, which they will use to ambush their foe from underground, called tunneling. Obviously, we just talked about that. Tunneling is one of the flagship features of the set, and the head developer Dan Clark goes over it in general detail in the previous article there. But what else do we have for you in Set 2? There is plenty. In Hex Set 1, you saw the advent of the gem socketing mechanic, where any given troop has the option to be socketed with 10 or 20 different gems, but what if you could socket troops with 2 gems? The combinations just got a lot closer to endless. Ever wondered how satisfying it would be to be able to socket, say, the Ruby Orb of Ferocity on the same troop that you socketed with the Prime Wild Orb of Dominance? Being able to socket your troops with 2 gems means the gems not only have context with troops' powers, but also with each other. There's many times it'd be awesome to be able to socket a card with 2 gems that synergize well together. This will finally give us the ability. I'm guessing the cards that are going to have double sockets are going to be pretty expensive. You're not going to have a 3 or 4 cost card probably that's going to have double socket. If it does, it'll probably be minor. But this one here is Arborian Root Father. I think Arborian. I'm going to guess since it's Arborian Root Father. 8 cost, 2 threshold, 8/8 troop, socketable major, socketable minor. When this troop dies, if it hasn't entered play this turn, put it into play and permanently half its attack and defense rounded down. Alright. The Root Father is the biggest, baddest socketed troop we've printed yet. As you may realize, this troop can gain terrifying amounts of health deal terrifying amounts of damage, bury terrifying amounts of cards. You get the idea. So yes, double-socketed cards is definitely a new mechanic that we'll see in Set 2, and I think that's going to be pretty cool, as long as, you know, the cards aren't all super expensive to double socket. Like I said, I don't think there'll be any cheap ones, but I don't know. You never know. Let's see here. I know there's some really cheap socketable cards. You think they'll have any cheap double socketable cards? Like, okay, if Figgy's one of my favorite cards, I don't know why. He's a 3-cost socketable miner. I like him a lot. You can put whatever you want, and not whatever. Obviously, you can't put a prime, you know, but you can give him all sorts of cool stuff, and he's only 3 cost. So hopefully they'll have some double socketed cards that are a little bit, you know, cheaper, so we don't have to, you know, wait 7-8 turns just to be able to play one of those particular cards there. But we'll see. You know, Set 2 is quickly approaching, hopefully sooner than later. All right. As you can see, socketing really jumps to a new level with the new double socketable troops. But Ben, this is somebody else talking, obviously, you may find yourself asking, how am I ever going to get all my threshold to activate all of those gems? Editor's notes. A previous version of this article had these shards at common. They are uncommon and now correctly displayed. All right. So, I'm glad you asked. Behold, mixed threshold non-standard resources. All 10 combinations are represented in Shattered Destiny, which is really cool. So basically, we can have these cards here. The flexibility of these resources lend to deck building is no joke. Multi-shard decks got a lot smoother in internal playtesting once we added these things to the mix. And although you may have to wait a turn to access your resource points, you get your threshold right away, meaning if you're desperate for the right threshold, drawing one of these can more reliably free up right away than if your deck were filled with just standard resources. So basically, it's kind of like it's a resource card that gives you, you know, extra resource, but it gives you a threshold right away, kind of like Chlorophilia does, and you know those cards that give you a resource but you can't access it right away, but they do give you the threshold. So that's kind of neat. That'll help out a ton. I'm hoping. I'm pretty sure it will. Couple other new cards here: the Talisman of Vitae and Eternal Drifter. Of course, the Eternal Drifter will always have 5 new champions to be pulling from. 5 new champions to be pulling from when looking for his power. Not only is it sweet to have a giant artifact troop that's changing up just like your champion, but because the Drifter ignores threshold requirements, you'll get to access different champion powers in the most unlikely of decks. The Drifter charges in any zone except in your graveyard, building up even if you haven't drawn him yet. The constructs are a race still very much shrouded in mystery, though they're clearly extremely powerful. So that's kind of cool. I like that there. The Talisman not only rewards you for using your charge powers and accumulating charges, but it provides some extra charges as well. Of course, there are a lot of other cards that reward you for gaining charges, and a few other pretty cool ways to gain charges in Set 2, but Brinkman will only let me spoil so much. I'm really excited for Set 2. Hopefully Set 2 comes out this next week. I'm guessing it's going to be maybe after GenCon. I don't know, since GenCon's going on right now, do we have any? They haven't mentioned anything about, you know, prizes and whatnot for opening cards and this and other thing. I don't know. Another thing here, they put down some card text here. It was kind of just a teaser. He says that's a taste of some of the major highlights from Set 2, but I'll close out with some other hints at some fun individual cards. Each of the following lines is a tiny fragment of an actual text box in the set. They are: if the top card of your deck is a dinosaur, target king, princess, or princess Target king, prince, or princess. So I'm going to guess that's Vampire King, Prince Gabriel, Princess Victoria, something about them. Each champion's resources become... She also becomes inspired. Orcs in all zones. 5 random cards in your deck. For each troop in your graveyard with Dark Spire in its name. Unless, of course, this is the unlucky one. Interesting card text there. Can't wait to see what cards those actually fall on. So Ben says that's it for today. Time for me to go home, pack for Gen Con. I'm excited to see all you there, and for all the players to get the chance to play with. Set 2 for the first time. Thanks for reading Hexers. Very interesting stuff. I'm liking it a lot. Last one up here we have is just a Hex update, spoiler, and convention. Just a little photo here about some people playing. It says, hey y'all, we broke a ton of news yesterday, so this will be a brief update. We're at Gen Con this weekend, and we have a limited presence at GamesCon too. We showed you some of the upcoming cards from Shattered Destiny, which we've also taken a look at. We've taken a look at tunneling. For your adventures, HEX Techs caught up with Corey in Germany to get some new news about PvE. We've posted pictures from our Gen Con presence on Facebook. There's even a special Shattered Destiny spoiler in there. Go ahead and take a look at that. You'll be able to find out what that is. And that's all for this week. We'll catch up once again. We're back in the office next week. Please leave any questions, comments in the forums link below. And don't forget to like us on Facebook, Twitch, register on the forums, so on and so forth. Let's see what we can bring up here about this PvE content. This is a YouTube video. We're not going to play it. I will link this into the description down below, so you guys can take a look at it at your on your own time there. So I'll have to take a look at this too as well. Probably some pretty good information in there about the PvE content. So other than that, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video here. Again, like I said, we didn't have one last week in anticipation that we were going to have some cards this week to open up and take a look at set 2, but we didn't, but that's okay. One thing I think I'm going to start doing, and some people may or may not like it or not, what we're going to do is we're going to, at the end of every Hex update Saturday, we're going to open a booster pack and just kind of see what we get. These are all set 1 booster packs, so it's not a big deal. Let's go ahead and open a pack. We have 32 packs right now to mess with, so we'll just go ahead and open one up, see what we get, just to end the show like this on maybe a high note or a sad note. We'll see. And we get for our Circle of Preservation. We probably have Circle of Preservation. Anyway, it's a 3 cost, 2 threshold, diamond, constant, once per turn, for 0. The next time targeted cards or actions would deal damage to you this turn, prevent it, put this constant into your hand, and it gets permanent cost +1. Nothing spectacular there. These are all pretty standard cards. Technical Genius, cool. Prairie Scout, target attacking troop. Yeah, we're all very familiar with these. We really need set 2 to come out. We've been playing with set 1 way too long. Everybody's super excited about set 2 coming out. I know I am, to be able to intermingle the cards to be able to come up with some really neat and cool, fun decks to play. Other than that, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video this week. If you do, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Also, if you want, go ahead and leave a comment down below, and we'll have another video for you.